Guys who have watched Barbie, what did you think about the movie? Dear viewers, before we start, it is important to say that this video will be divided into two parts for your convenience. First, we will talk about the opinion of men, then we will look at the opinion of women. I've removed any spoilers that might interfere with your enjoyment if you do decide to go see the movie. Alright, let's get started. Story 1. Ken is literally me. Story 2. Honestly pretty good. I didn't go in with any expectations but can't remember the last time I laughed in a theater like that. There are a lot of ridiculous funny type scenes, and the comedic timing was really impeccable at times. I was also surprised by how funny and well-suited Ryan Gosling was as Ken, since I'd never really seen him in that type of role. Perfectly casted. Story 3. My best friend took his wife a few days ago, and he said it was surprisingly entertaining, and that the story made way more sense than he was expecting. My girlfriend wants to see it, and she had planned to see it alone, but I may actually go with her now. Story 4. It was pretty good. The Kens stole the show, especially Ryan Gosling. Story 5. I love patriarchy and horses. Story 6. We are Kenoff. Don't be a Kensel. Story 7. I'm usually silent during movies, but when Nobel Prize Barbie pretended to need help with Photoshop, I accidentally let out a massive laugh. That whole sequence of pandering to men's lamest notions was so true, was hilarious. I say this as a guy once played guitar at a girl, putting her in the awkward position of having to just sit there smiling for 3 minutes. Hey, I was 14. Loved the film. Thought how they handled contemporary perspective on Barbie was well done. Biggest disappointment was that I thought Ordinary Barbie was going to be a real product line from Mattel following the movie. Story 8. I won a horse. Story 9. I went with my wife and 2 of our friends, and we all honestly thought it was hilarious. I think all the actors crushed their parts. There was obviously a lot of very obvious feminist stuff in it, but so what? My wife has experienced a lot of the things that America Ferrera mentioned in her monologue, and I'm sure it felt good to have those experiences validated in a movie. In the end, not every movie has to be made for everyone. There are plenty of movies that are feel-good movies for men, and this was definitely a feel-good movie for women. I think that if you are secure in your own version of masculinity, you won't have a problem watching this movie and enjoying it. Sublime. Edit. Forgot to mention, the ending is actually a really positive message for men. Story 10. I honestly didn't see the movie as anti-men at all. Obviously is a movie that centers around women's feelings and experience in the society. Is a movie about Barbie. The men are used simply as a plot point to develop the women in the movie, and there is nothing wrong with it. But I feel safe to say that the Kens and Alan have better character depth and development that many movies made and targeted towards other men. Plus the movie approach to maternity, I think it will appeal to anyone. After one specific scene, I felt the need to call my mom. I am living abroad and I don't see and talk to her as much as I used to. This theme was treated with such sensitivity that I was pleasantly surprised. You may dislike the movie and disagree with their argument, but trust me that it will not start an Asandric revolution on society. In the end, I think women in this point are better than us in the aspect of making movies discussing women's experience, feelings, emotions, and its struggles. I love come-of-age movies, and most of them are about a young woman discovering herself. We lack some that discusses a young boy's experience, and that is mostly our fault. We don't have interest in producing neither and watch it. There are a lot of movies about how a man should act when fighting against external enemies, and very few about when you are fighting your internal ones. Story 11. Ryan Gosling stole the show. A lot of his scenes really just made me feel like f***y men, and his I'm Just Ken song was great. I know a lot of guys feel like the movie was men bashing, but I honestly feel Ken's scenes were fun and empowering for men. There were a few scenes in Act 2 and 3 with Ken that made me proud to be a man too. It made some points about the patriarchy that were technically accurate, but nothing surprising or new. Story 12. I give it a 7/10. I thought it was funny and entertaining. The whole nobody cares about Ken thing wasn't supposed to be a personal jab at Ken men, but the fact that nobody really cares about the Ken doll. I think parts of the plot could have been handled better to help the message though. Story 13. I went with my wife, my teenage niece, and her female friend. The girls all dressed up. Lots of others folks dressed up in pink or Barbie-ish outfits. Everyone loved it. I like Greta Gerwig's films, and I was hoping the movie was more than advertised. Barbie goes to real world and is pursued by Mattel, and she delivered. It was funny. I loved the production design. Integrating all the actual Barbie product stuff was clever. The absurdist logic was great. Everyone in it nailed it. The movie had a message, and they were not subtle about it. I was surprised Mattel had the guys to go with this take. Kudos to them for taking the risk, and congrats to the production for executing so well. Dear viewers, before we move on to women's opinions about this movie, I want to remind you of the importance of subscribing to our channel. We are also waiting for your comments and likes. Thank you. Let's move on to the video. Story 14. I enjoyed it. I understand they wanted to point out the patriarchy and feelings geared towards women, but I related to Barbie in a sense of not knowing your purpose. I'm going through my own little crisis right now when it comes to my meaning and purpose in life. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It had its funny moments too, like Lizzo's song when she's singing what Barbie is doing and then singing the same song with lyric changes later on is hilarious to me. Also, Ryan Gosling as a himbo is a low-key fantasy come true, so I'm satisfied. Story 15. Such a fun movie. At times it did feel the BuzzFeed 2016 millennial feminism vibes, which made me cringe, but other than that, it was very entertaining. I cannot believe I ever doubted Ryan Gosling. He was perfect as Ken. Stunning visuals. The small details, like the proportion of the house to the dolls, the way they move, fall, lie down, the thickness of Margot Robbie's braided hair lol, so reminiscent of the plastic hair. The very plot lines similar to how I would play with my Barbies and combine every possible genre into one. All subtle details that those who didn't grow up playing with Barbie wouldn't notice. I explained all of this to my brother on our way out lol. And Margot is a beautiful woman who has influenced me into getting side-swept bangs. And I'm not complaining. Story 16. To be honest, the movie itself didn't blow me out of the water, but the communal experience around it did. It was just such a joyful expression of womanhood and communal experience. It was nice to have this where the overwhelming response was so positive it drowned out the downers. So many communal female experiences are squashed. But this one was too big to put down. Story 17. I think the movie absolutely blasted through the glass ceiling how women are supposed to feel is the reality of being a woman. I went with my boyfriend, and it was almost as empowering for me to watch it with him and see the emotional validation that Gosling got and felt. It was so good. Story 18. It wrecked me. I couldn't hold back sobs as I left the cinema with my partner. Watching Barbie get catcalled and treated like an object for the first time, and describing how it made her feel. The innocence melting away with each further step into reality. It was too close to all the first times as a kid I was sexualized or othered for being a girl, and trying to come to terms with it with my child level of understanding. I've never seen that experience played out for an adult before, and it really got to me as I'm working on my own issues with being a woman and all the dangers that come with it that I did not ask for. Story 19. I saw it yesterday with my 15 years old daughter and we loved it. I loved all the pop cultural references, the feminist points, anti-patriarchy, and I think the movie was also very self-critical of the Barbie doll as a skinny, white, perfect kind of doll. I loved how Aqua's hit song Barbie Girl was played in the end. I mean, Mattel actually sued the band back in the days for the song. I hate musicals, so very happy it wasn't one such. Story 20. I can't believe it got made. I absolutely loved it. Ken stole the show for sure. Story 21. I really liked it, but that doesn't make it a perfect movie. The plot was far from airtight, and there were some bits that were a bit too on the nose with feminist hot takes. But I'd heard all of them before. I'd hope it was more impactful for people who are less familiar. That being said, it was a movie for women by women, and that's really the best part for me. The criticism that this movie demonizes or puts down men is unfair to me, because where's that passion for gender equity when literally any other movie comes out? It's just another example of the higher standard women, and more specifically feminists, are held to because they still are expected to create a positive space for men within something that wasn't created for them. Story 22. It was amazing. I've never been in a theater where that many women were clearly having tons of fun. It spoke to so many experiences all women have that are never talked about. Story 23. My 14 years old daughter and I loved it. The casting was perfect. The sets were really cool. The women empowerment was awesome. I especially liked how it showed all the different Barbies, and how it wasn't just one main character Barbie. Story 24. I think it was such a celebration and acceptance of womanhood. I just loved it so much and felt such a connection to it. It took such a real and human approach, but in a very feel-good way with such positive messaging and really funny humor. I feel like there's really synth to take away for all people. but there's just some things women understand, and you can especially feel it in the theater. Women just get it. This is a good note to end on. Please rate your stories in the comments. I'll be happy to add them to future videos. Also, you can rate our other videos. We would be very grateful. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.